Movie Nut here with a review for 101 Dalmatians, the 1996 remake of the animated film, starring Glenn Close, Jeff Daniels, Jolie Richardson, and Hugh Laurie. The story, much as the original 1961 animated film and the original novel, centers on Pongo and Perdita, two Dalmatians, and their owners, Roger and Anita. The two dogs fall for each other and eventually coax their owners into falling for each other as well. At the same time, however, Anita's boss, the eccentric fashion designer Cruella DeVille, learns of Anita's Dalmatian and also that she's having puppies, and as such is excited with the notion of making a coat out of Dalmatians. However, Anita and Roger refuse the offer, and Cruella resorts to calling in to her henchmen, Jasper and Horace, to kidnap the lot. And from there, well, mayhem ensues. The performances all around are a mixed bag. Now, obviously the highlight of the film is Glenn Close as Cruella DeVille. She is, simply put, Cruella right off the cell, right off the original film. She is menacing, eccentric, larger-than-life, cartoonish, vibrant. Glenn really had fun with this role and really put her heart and soul into it, and she's a lot of fun to watch on screen. And her two bumbling henchmen, played by Hugh Laurie and Mark Williams respectively, also work well off each other, and they also work well with Cruella giving her someone to bounce off orders on. On the other hand, Jeff Daniels and Jolie Richardson as Roger and Anita do okay jobs, but they're not particularly memorable. In fact, I think Jolie is possibly one of the worst actors in the film. She comes off as a tad bland at times, and never really leaps off the page, never gives the role the full warmth or development it deserves, which is a shame, since she has been in good roles after this film. And the two, while they work, they don't produce a particularly interesting romantic couple and don't have all that much chemistry. Of course, I couldn't talk about this film without mentioning the Dalmatians. Now, of course, being live action, the Dalmatians don't talk. Here, they're much more reliant on their body language to really get across the emotions, and I was surprised how well this worked. And obviously, it wouldn't have been easy for director Stephen Herrick to pull this off. Coordinating and directing animals is a huge task in film, and there are so many things that you have to deal with, such as health and safety, what the dogs eat, the trainers, the conditions that they live in, a whole bunch of things, and I imagine this was a very hard film to do because of those things. But they work really well, and even though they don't talk, their facial expressions and their body language perfectly show how the characters are feeling. Granted, the lack of voices doesn't give them as much of a personality as their animated counterparts, but it works well enough, and it is very impressive to see this many animals being coordinated so well and doing the things that the script requires them to do. And on a side note, I love Cruella's car in this film. In fact, I love both of Cruella's cars. And actually, the model here is a Panther DeVille. That's right, that's its name, a DeVille, which fits perfectly. And though it never gets destroyed in a brilliant car chase like in the original, it still fits the character well, and in fact the black and white color scheme complements Cruella better than the original red car from the animated film. And the score by Michael Kamen, while not necessarily his most memorable or brilliant work, works well enough with the film and creates the needed mood, atmosphere, and accompaniment to a lot of the slapstick, much like a good Disney cartoon, and there is a decent rendition of Cruella DeVille song played during the credits. And of course, the final thing to talk about, as always, is the script. Now, this was written by Home Alone's John Hughes, and it does show, since the second half, unlike the animated film which ended with a car chase, here feels much more like the ending of the first two Home Alones, with the villains getting foiled by the animals in a variety of crazy slapstick ways. And depending on who you are, this will either be good if you like slapstick, or it will be painful if you don't. Me, I don't mind, and the thing is, the film isn't incompetent in its humor. Though there are one or two urine jokes and one fart joke, it's not as forced or relentless as you might think it is by comparison to some other cartoon adaptations. And that's the thing, when you compare this to like Alvin and the Chipmunks, or the Flintstones, or Inspector Gadget, this is actually one of the better cartoon adaptations, because it at least tries to feel like a film. It doesn't feel like a bunch of stupid pop culture references. There are no stupid pop songs, no stupid raps in here. It feels like the filmmakers did try to make a film that would stand on its own. As I said, the humor here is very much hit or miss depending on who you are and what your tastes in comedy are. And the thing is, I can definitely see little kids laughing at the slapstick, the dogs, and of course the henchmen. And I didn't hate the film. For me, the worst kind of film is the one that bores me, the one that makes me angry, that makes me feel like I wasted my money. And this didn't give me that type of reaction. I didn't love it, but I didn't come out of it angry. I got a few chuckles out of it. No hearty belly laughs like in, say, Ed Wood or Hot Fuzz or Good Morning Vietnam, but enough to at least keep the film from becoming boring or monotonous. And the thing is, because the animals don't talk, a lot of the film has to be carried by Cruella and the henchmen, and as I said, they do a good job, especially Glenn Close's Cruella, who really does become the living version of the cartoon character. And she is a lot of fun to watch on screen, and it always brings the movie up a couple of notches when she's on. The romance, by comparison, though, is dull, it's not particularly interesting, it's very cliched, and it doesn't feel as funny as in the original. And because the animals don't talk, it isn't helped any further because a lot of the humor came from the animals' observations in the original, and because that's not here, it suffers. But it's not incompetent. That's the important thing to remember here. We have John Hughes writing, and we have Stephen Herrick, who also did Critters, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So we have competent people here, and of course the handling of all these animals would have been a big challenge for Stephen, and on that level the film does impress me that he was able to pull off so much with this many animals. As I said, it doesn't necessarily make the film any better, but it at least has something in it. It at least has things going for it, and I can definitely see little children laughing at it and enjoying it. And at least it doesn't try to, ignore the original or forget the original. At least it tries to recreate scenes from the original, and it does it relatively well. And frankly, as I've said, in the cartoon adaptation department, there are far worse cases. And most of them, I think, are because you have novice directors and novice writers trying too hard to be cool and artsy, and they end up failing miserably. Just look at Alvin, which tried to be all hip-hop and cool, and it failed utterly because that was not the point. Here, however, it never feels like that. It doesn't feel like one big pop culture fest. Is it the best slapstick comedy ever? No. But does it work on its own merits as a family film? I certainly think so. And so I must give 101 Dalmatians a bronze star. While lacking the charm and the energy of the original Dalmatians film, it works well enough on its own merits as a simple family comedy that I can definitely see kids enjoying. And by comparison to some of the other cartoon adaptations, this is probably one of the better ones, and Glenn Close's performance is a perfect transition from animated cell to live action of a great villain.